On this episode, both Juan and I would like to say to you, good morning. And in case we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. We watched The Truman Show, and you're listening to Geeked Out.
Popcorn in our hands, ready for the show. From the classics to the blockbusters, we're always in the know. Throwing references like confetti, we keep it real. Geeked Out Podcast, we make you feel. We're the critics you can trust.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Geeked Out. My name is Kyle.
Juan here.
And for this episode, as we continue our little mini-series of Jim Carrey movies, we have watched The Truman Show, which was Juan's selection, as it was his turn to choose. Before we get into the facts of this movie, since you made the pick, why don't you run through your history of this movie and even give a little overview of it?
Definitely don't remember seeing this in the theater, even though both my parents were here. I think because this one wasn't a traditional Jim Carrey at the time, a Jim Carrey comedy. I think we skipped this in theaters, and I believe we rented this, and then it would be one of those movies that would be on either TV or cable, one of the movie network channels there, and I believe that's where I watched it most. 'Cause I remember there was a short window where I watched it quite a few times, and I didn't go back to it for a very long time.
Yeah, I at the same time I can't say where or when I first would have seen this movie either. It definitely wasn't a theater for me. Honestly, it was probably something that I caught on TV because, again, like you say, with it not being a traditional slapstick, goofy type Jim Carrey comedy, there's a really good chance that I just kind of dismissed this one when it first came out. However, once I did give it a chance and watched it, I fell in love with this movie, and I used to watch it on a fairly decently regular basis. And there were probably the early 2000s and whatnot, but I don't think I've watched this movie in probably a good 10 years. To the point where when I was doing my rewatch, I thought that the movie was a lot longer, and I actually thought
Oh, really?
I had a memory of the movie being longer, and I had a memory of the movie going into more of the show.
Yeah.
Like it taking longer for him to start questioning things.
Yeah, I get that part. I thought that part too, because more than half of the movie is they don't really talk about that. Like at the very beginning, they mention it, and then you don't really hear back from it until you're either at the end of the second act or the third act. So deep into the movie, and then when it comes back on, you're like, oh shit, yeah, this is these people. And then I thought it was earlier in the movie. All those elements were introduced when I watched it when I was younger. It was weird.
Yeah. See, I thought it actually took longer to get to the questioning part. Like, I thought there was at least a few days where he kind of went about his day, and before things started to become a little bit obvious, I completely forgot. Like, I remember, we'll get there, but I remember the scene when the light falls.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably 20 to 30 minutes into the movie, not like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah. I remember it happening too, but I would have guessed it was not as early as we saw it in my rewatch.
Well, let's get into it. As we were talking, as we said, we watched The Truman Show. This movie was originally released June 5th of 1998, and on a $69 million budget, it brought in a worldwide box office of $264 million.
Yeah.
It currently sits at a very respectable 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
The critics of the tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes have it a 94%, and the fans on the popcorn meter have it at 89%.
Okay, I can see that. That makes sense. Looking through the movie with a critic eye, you realize how many this movie has quite a few layers to it, and and you can look at this movie in different ways. It blew my mind. Because when you watch it the first time, you're just seeing it for what it is. But then upon or just before my rewatch, I watched a little YouTube video. I wish I knew the channel. I would shut them out. But um, they, I think it was a theory of theirs where I don't want to ruin it, but it makes your second viewing of it. It makes you look at the movie completely different, and rewatching it with that perspective, it just wow. It was good. It was a completely different experience, and yeah, I really much enjoyed it.
Now, I know that you had told me about this YouTube video, and unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to actually watch it. I meant to, but
Yeah,
things
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of
No, it's okay. That's okay.
got out of hand. I wasn't able to watch it, but you and I had discussed that a little bit after we had finished our recording last week.
Yeah,
So I kind of know what you're getting at, but I tried to have that a little bit in the back of my mind as I was watching it, and it kind of makes sense. I was
that's why it's a theory. It's because it's not a fact. It's not a concrete thing. Because there are things that could dispute that theory. But you know, I firmly my hat is in that camp of the theory, and because there's certain things that happen that could only be explained by the theory, but again, um, it is a theory, and it hasn't been confirmed yet. So
no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know if I saw enough evidence, like from the way I was watching it, that would kind of support that
yeah,
theory. But it's a very
because
interesting idea to look at this movie in that way.
mhm, absolutely, and like the theory video, it is pretty thorough, and it shows you examples, and yeah, so once if you do get a chance to watch the video, watch it, and you'll get you'll you'll understand because they're presenting the evidence right now.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to check it out. I'll probably have to do that in the coming days after we're done recording this, obviously.
Yeah, cool.
Um, yeah, I mean, this movie kind of, I feel like this movie kind of came out of nowhere because everything leading up to this, you obviously had, as we talked last week about Jim Carrey's year in '94, and then he went on and did things like The Cable Guy and Liar Liar and all these just goofy comedies. And then all of a sudden, this movie, while there are comedic elements to it, this is not a straight comedy. This is a drama, a kind of a suspenseful type movie, and it's. I mean, I was too young at the time to really look at actors and things like that in a critical way. But had this come out now with an actor like Jim Carrey, I think I'd be very skeptical, knowing the style that he has when it comes to movies and acting and things like that. And I mean, I'm pleasant. I was pleasantly surprised he pulls this off in a fantastic way, and it shows how good of a dramatic actor he really can be.
Yeah, even though this movie does have many elements, it's more of it's a little bit of everything. It's like a suspense, a little bit of suspense, a little thriller. Um, it's what's the word I'm thinking of? of the word, but it's a bit of a dark comedy as well, you know. And I, yeah, it's it's very interesting. Sorry, I'm just going through my notes here.
No, you're good. Yeah, I mean, like we've talked about it. Like last week we did when we did Dumb and Dumber. I did say there was one or two scenes in that movie where he actually shows his dramatic chops, but to look at him doing that throughout a full hour and a half, hour and 40-minute movie, I think it was very impressive. I mean, because like I said, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it definitely came out of nowhere, and he goes through all the emotional. Basically, is slowly having a mental breakdown, and you're seeing it live. But he's also like, there's moments where you could tell his character is putting on an act, and he's paranoid, and yeah, he's going through a whole lot, and it's that he's definitely displaying all that in a believable way, where yeah, man, you're going through it as he's going through it, and it's just yeah, it was a really good performance, and it just goes to show you how a lot of comedians that are great when they do get a chance to play a dramatic role, they knock it out of the park, man. Robin Williams being the go-to choice besides Jim Carrey, and yeah, man, this proved it.
I will say that in my opinion, I think with the performance that he put forth in this movie, he deserved an Academy Award nomination minimum, and I think he was kind of robbed with that by not getting one. And I think obviously we know that the Academy Awards are a very political thing, and I think maybe the bias of what he had done in his previous movies was taken too much into account, and that's why they didn't give it to him.
And the premise of the movie's different. It's not like an Oscar baity movie. And back then, late '90s, if it, most movies that were nominated were very baity, Oscar baity. So it makes sense that the Academy just didn't even know what to do with this movie. And when they don't know when they're confused, they kind of just brush it to the side, and they don't take the any performance or anything about that movie seriously.
Well, this movie actually was nominated for 3 Academy Awards.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. No, but I get what you're saying, because the ones, sorry, the ones that it did get nominated for was screenplay for Andrew Niccol, who's the writer of the movie. Peter Weir was nominated for Best Director, and Ed Harris was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Now,
okay.
Those 3 nominations kind of make sense in terms of what the Academy Awards does, because Ed Harris was a big name, a dramatic actor. He had just come off doing Apollo 13 a couple years earlier.
He got nominated for this movie?
Yep.
Really? Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, and I mean, like I say, 2 years earlier with Apollo 13, he was also nominated for that role as well. I think Apollo 13 is a better performance by him, but we're not here to nitpick Academy Awards. But yeah, I think Jim Carrey deserved it, and that's just my own personal opinion. That could be a bias of me being a fan.
If Ed Harris got one, why don't you get the guy that was acting circles around Ed Harris just because Ed Harris wasn't in the movie long enough?
Yeah, I mean, there's things in this movie. I mean, there's scenes where Jim Carrey doesn't say a word, and he conveys every emotion that he's going through just by the look in his eyes and the facial expressions that he's making, and you know exactly what he's thinking and going through.
Yeah, absolutely. Only like yeah, it goes with his um the fact that he's such a good physical comedian, and he's so good with his facial expressions and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, it makes sense that he could pull off that performance, and I'm glad he was able to. Yeah, I'm glad that he knocked this role out of the park.
Well, to get back into it, so as I said, the movie was directed by Peter Weir and written by Andrew Niccol. Nominated for 3 Oscars, this movie stars Jim Carrey, Ed Harris, Laura Linney, Noah Emmerich, Natasha Bechelhon, sorry, I mispronounced that, I guarantee it, Holland Taylor, and Paul Giamatti. The movie is about an insurance salesman who begins to suspect that his whole life is actually some sort of reality TV show. So, the movie begins with Truman Burbank, who lives a cheerful, ordinary life in the seaside town of Sea Haven until small, strange moments hint that his world isn't quite right. Unbeknownst to him, his entire life is a TV show broadcast 24/7 to a global audience. Now, I want to start right off the bat. The way the movie opens with him talking to himself in the mirror, and obviously there's a camera behind the mirror, so it's like he's talking directly to camera. And they intersperse and intercut it with interviews of the other actors, not like the actors who are in the Truman Show. So they're talking to his best friend Marlon, played by Noah Emmerich, and Laura Linney playing his wife Meryl. Sorry. I like that they did it because it's almost like Jim Carrey's giving an interview to the audience while, without knowing it, while the actors are talking about their role in the show. And
Yeah, they're actors playing Justin the role playing her. It's crazy.
yeah,
Like, oh,
but I mean, right off the bat, the logistics of this movie are absolutely absurd because you've got this entire. Basically, they show that it's like they almost have built an entire dome over a portion of somewhere in California.
yeah, you can see from space.
Yeah, that they've got this entire town and lake and all the surrounding forest areas and things like that. There's, I don't know if they say how many extras and people on set they have, but it's a massive amount. And this thing is supposedly running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no time off. Like, to have all
Yeah,
that.
it's yeah. The logistics is crazy because it's like if you're okay, it makes sense for the extras because the extras can have a life outside of this. They can leave, right? But if you're in Truman's close circle, like a close friend or a family member or his wife, like you you can't have a life outside. You have to give all that up. It's crazy that people are willing to do that for a show.
Now, let me ask your opinion on this question. Meryl, played by Laura Linney, who plays Truman's wife, is she just basically a glorified prostitute?
I would say class she's an escort. Right?
But you get what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah. No. No. I mean, it's like they arranged it, so it's more of like an arranged marriage in a way. But
Yeah, but
she was
you
trying to
can
do it.
tell throughout the movie she doesn't
Oh, of course,
she doesn't care about him like you would actually care for a spouse. Like, obviously the entire thing,
playing that role.
even the amount of time that they've been together, it's she's not like she hasn't fallen in like because you hear about like arranged marriages and that in time eventually spending all that time with one another they do tend to
Yeah.
fall in love. She has no interest in being around him
Yeah, I see
whatsoever, it
right.
seems.
So it has that feeling that she would glorify. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Well,
it kind of feels like that, but it just again, it feels like an actress that is, you know what I mean, in a show with, in that's married in the show who has no chemistry with the star who's her husband. You know what I mean? That's yeah, it's very much that feeling.
now, his
She's not
relationship
warm.
with.
Yeah,
Sorry,
she's not.
I, I
Yeah,
was going to say his
go ahead.
relationship with Marlon seems almost
Genuine.
genuine, even though
Oh, absolutely.
we know that Marlon is an actor playing his best friend. Either Noah Emmerich is just really good in this movie, or the chemistry that him and Jim Carrey have as actual people just bleeds through the screen because they really do seem like they're two very good, if not best friends.
They've been yeah, and they were best friends for since they were in grade school, right? So it
Yeah,
makes
just
sense
like
that their bond would be a lot stronger than anybody else on, you know, that he in his life, really.
as much as I like this movie, the whole thought of that I think Marlon says that he met him when he was like 7, and now I think they say they're like in their late 20s or 30s or something. So like being on this show, this being your entire life for upwards of 20 years, like you've basically signed your life away as well.
But
Like
100%.
like I say, the logistics of this make so little sense.
And but he did have a line where he said uh he had pneumonia or something for a month. Now, is that to imply that maybe they switched out the actor as he got older, and then when he was a certain age, they just so, like was he literally his friend for all these years, or did they just switch actors at some point?
Um, I I don't know, but
You know what I
I
mean?
think that
Because when they do the flashback, it's not of their younger selves. I mean, they do flashbacks when he's a child. Obviously, that's a different actor. But when they go to what was that? Was that
their
college?
college years.
It's just them. It's not college versions.
But I
So
think
you can't judge whether his friend was the same actor all these years or did they switch him out. I
he would have to be because if they have plans that he's going to be his best friend basically for life, you would
you gotta
need
know it.
you would need to have those memories
That's
of
true.
doing the same things with Truman, unless I mean the only other way they could do it is if like if they did switch actors, they would have to make this kid watch nonstop film to ingrain in his head all of these
Yeah, that's true.
memories in case so that he doesn't screw up
Yeah,
later on.
it would have to be believable. That's true. So like yeah, so he basically signed his whole life away, which is like that is a that okay. That seems something somebody would never do.
No, there's a lot of things in this movie that I don't think would ever make sense. However, I will say having this movie come out in 1998 and obviously the draw of the reality TV, this movie really predicted something with where the television watching habits of the world would go because just a couple years later, you would have the debut of both Survivor and Big Brother, two of the biggest reality TV shows ever made, and
Yeah,
that are both still going today,
it
25,
is.
20, 25, 26 years later.
Yeah. And it's evolved to like even now with like streamers and vloggers and people that, they stream their life all day. Like, you got these young guys like the Kai Cenats, stuff like that. And they're basically putting their whole life on display and people can watch. And they're literally these people have sleep streams where you can watch them sleep.
Yeah.
And they have
Now,
cameras all throughout their house. It's
I,
crazy.
I don't watch any of that, so I have no idea who those people are.
Yeah, no, I only know because I watch other people who know of them. So,
Yeah.
but
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did have to wonder, like, when this movie starts, it says that they're on day 10,909. Now, there's obviously no end game to this. Like, if we sit down and we watch a reality competition show, you know that at the point of it is to get to the end and win X amount of dollars or win these prizes or whatever it is. And that's the reason why people watch them, because you're not only watching reality, you're watching strategy and you're watching games and competitions and things like that. Do you really think the entire world would be captivated by just watching somebody go about their everyday life? Like, I know you say that there are streamers who do this, but I can't imagine that those streamers would be putting up numbers anywhere close to what this show or this movie
Oh,
posits their numbers for the Truman Show are.
it seems like almost the entire is watching the Truman Show.
I mean, they show them having like watch parties in like the middle of Times Square or like at a festival concert stage.
Yeah, uh, yeah, and different countries throughout the world watching it. Like a lovely Japanese couple and their mom, I guess. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, it's definitely showing you that a large percentage of that world is hooked on this Truman Show and
Yeah,
very invested in his life. I think that bar is the Truman Show bar. Like he has
it
his
is.
own bar.
It is. I think
That's
it's called the
crazy.
Truman Bar. I think that's what's on their aprons.
Yeah, and they're drinking the same beer that Buddy's drinking. If you pay attention.
Yeah, it's a wild concept. I will say that, and I will say the as I was saying, the very opening of the movie, I did like how the opening of the movie, the credits weren't your typical like Jim Carrey or Noah Emmerich or Ed Harris. The credits just show it says Truman Burbank and Meryl Burbank, and it's like the credits are opening the actual Truman Show as opposed to the movie, which I thought
Yeah,
was a really interesting touch.
yeah. It puts you right into the movie as if you are an audience member watching the show.
And like we had
Yeah,
said, almost right off the bat, he gets kind of a hinting suspicion that something might be wrong. I mean, it's like I said, I thought it was a little later in the movie that this happened, but he goes to get in his car to go to work, and obviously, what we know as a production light falls. And then I love that. I love the way that through the movie you get these different camera angles because cameras are hidden in the radio or in somebody's in a button on their suit or
yeah.
different things like that. And I like,
Cameras everywhere. If you're paying attention, you could see him, man. And on trash cans. And his
yeah.
ring is one. And it's like, God damn. Yeah,
But
cameras
I
everywhere.
like that as he's driving, if you pay attention as he's driving to work on the radio, it talks about there was like a plane malfunction that started to like break pieces off because they're trying to explain so that he hears what he might have picked up in the street to try and get him off of the thought of, well, that looks like a light. They're trying to figure out a way. I see, and for some reason, I always thought that they had said something about it was like a satellite that fell out of orbit. I didn't remember the plane part until I watched and listened to the radio broadcast this time.
Yeah, yeah. And they were pretty quick on that too. With it, like immediately, which is it gives a little like, oh, okay, that's what happened, and kind of just brushed it off.
They seem to be quick on a lot of things because even
have to.
Well, and even it shows him every day he stops at the newspaper stand and gets a paper, and it's like the only reason that they have a quote unquote newspaper in this world is because the articles that are in the paper are just correcting mistakes that happened the day before. Because like it's almost like something will happen. Because I think that's one of the news headlines the next day. So it'll be like, oh, if something bad happens or if something happens out of the ordinary, the next day in the paper it'll be like, oh, this was the reason for it or whatever.
Or it's just whenever he, and it's also ties in when he's questioning leaving when he was getting the idea of heading to Fiji or whatever. One of the newspapers was, I think it was one of his coworkers showed him a newspaper saying that the town that he's in is voted best place on the planet or something
Yeah.
as a way to, drive it home to stay where you're at, man.
Well, speaking of Fiji, because he starts talking about wanting to go there, and you later find out that it's because of this woman, Sylvia, who he met. But I love when he goes to the travel agency, and on the wall, there's what looks almost like one of those like motivational type posters, and it's a plane with a bolt of lightning going through it. And it just says, "It could happen to you."
Oh yeah, it could, yeah. That's terrifying. Like that's like the last thing you would want in your office or your business if you are a travel agent.
Absolutely.
The exact opposite vibe you want to give off.
But it seems like that's what they do with everything. I mean, the whole thing with he's terrified of water because his dad drowned when he was a kid, and he lives on an island, so that ensures that he's never going to leave the island or want to leave because he's so paralyzed with fear. Like when he puts Meryl in the car and he's like, yeah, we're going to go away somewhere. He gets to the bridge that crosses the water. He literally can't bring himself to drive over it, even though he is on a solid concrete bridge. I can understand you're afraid of the water, you don't want to go swimming, or you don't want to go on a boat or something like that, but he won't even drive across it. Like, that's how deep they've embedded this fear in him.
Yeah, that's the second time that, crossing that bridge came up. It happened earlier in the movie, too. I don't know if he had to walk over or at least walk a part of the way, and he couldn't do it. He kind of just turned around immediately and then moved on.
What you're talking about is the ferry.
Oh, it's the ferry. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because as I said, he's an insurance salesman, so his boss is like, oh, I need you to go and close this, and he's like, oh, that's on such and such island, like I'd have to take the ferry, and he basically buys a ticket and makes it through the turnstile.
Oh, okay. I thought they were like,
and he's immediately like, nope, can't do it, turns around and goes the opposite direction.
Okay, I thought that and the bridge were like in the same area. Okay, that makes sense.
No. The other thing that I thought was a really good touch in this movie, because again, it is a TV show, and they say that there are no commercials whatsoever. So this movie, there's constant product placement within the Truman Show. And that's one of my favorite gags throughout the movie is like, on his way to work, you've always got the two twin guys like pushing him up against the wall right next to the sign so it's framed right next to him.
Oh yeah. His friend with the beer. Obviously his wife with the straight up full blown advertising with the script.
That's
It was two things. It was the cocoa, and then whatever that multi-tool kitchen tool was.
Yeah, I think she's like, I think she's like, oh yeah, it's a 3-in-1 kitchen tool, and then the best, one of my favorite parts of the movie is they're literally having an argument. I think she does the mocha cocoa. Oh, from fresh beans from the rainforest of Nicaragua, and she's like holding the can up, and he's like, "Who are you talking to?"
Oh yeah, and before that, she did a little one, a quick one, where she Truman's think in his basement or his mom's basement, he's going through his old stuff, and then he's quickly switches to the lawnmower. He's fixing
Yeah,
it.
because he's
So he
fixing. He's
wasn't,
on fixing the mower.
and she says you should throw it out. She mentions another brand, and
You know, we should get one of those
mom,
brand, one of those new, and the camera zooms in on her.
and then walks upstairs. I was like, she was doing this the whole movie.
Those were some of my favorite gags of the movie because they're so out of place and obvious of what they're doing. And the only one that he finds them odd, but the only one he seems to really like outright question is when she starts basically doing the commercial for the cocoa.
Yeah, because at that point he's realizing like people aren't talking or responding or interacting like people
Yeah,
should.
because it's that, and then also at one point he's driving and his car radio picks up like the walkie talkies of the producers. He tries to go into the building next door to where he works, and the elevator opens, and he sees basically it looks like the you step off a movie set. There's like the crowd, the catering table, and the director's chairs, and the security guards immediately like, oh no, they're just doing some work there. He's like, what work? There's no backing to that elevator. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's when the ball really gets rolling with him having his like mental break, or at least just his realization like something's really happening right now. Like something's going on.
Yeah. So that brings us pretty much to Act Two. As Truman grows suspicious, he starts testing his reality and pushing against his routines. The show's creator, Christoph, played by Ed Harris, works harder to control events and keep Truman contained. But the more Truman searches for the truth and for freedom, the harder it becomes to hide the lie. Yeah, this is when he really starts to become, and I think there are a few people in the act in Hollywood who played manic better than Jim Carrey. So especially the scene when Meryl gets home and he's just sitting in the car and he's like, watch, and he's doing the loop of the woman on the bike, the Volkswagen, whatever. And then he takes her and starts driving. He's like, yeah, we're just going to go wherever, and does the roundabout, and he turns off and all the cars come out of nowhere. Like,
Instinct.
yeah, insane. He's like, they just came out of nowhere as if they were as if they're trying to block the road. And he goes back and does the roundabout again. And he's like, huh, look at that. Same road, no cars. But like I say, his manicness and his paranoia is kind of taking over. And I don't think there are many actors who could pull this scene off as well or as believably as he does.
At least a comedic actor. I mean, there's some dramatic actors that could definitely pull that off, but there's a very few, if not any, comedic actors, and very few dramatic actors that could pull it off in such a way that Jim Carrey could. And yeah, it makes sense that he is the star of this movie because I couldn't picture anyone else. I could picture someone else doing a good performance, but not in a way where you are getting that comedic element as well. And the way Jim Carrey breaks down mentally is kind of funny. And I don't think any other actor could do that.
Now, I think the only person I could see in this time, like in the time of 1998, somebody playing this role, and I've heard, it might have been another podcast, but I heard somebody say this before. This is not my own original idea, but the only person from that time that I think I could really see actually playing this role convincingly, other than Jim Carrey, would have been Tom Hanks.
Yeah, you could also give it to Robin Williams. I mean, he's old. He's a little bit older, but you could have still did it, and he still would have. It would have been different, but still, he would have knocked that apart. Like his comedic sense would have been different, but it still would have been a very good performance in the way that the director wanted the Truman character.
Yeah. Now I have a question. I don't really know if they ever. I don't think they ever actually address it. So all these people throughout the movie, we see people watching. So you've got the people in the bar, you've got the two old ladies with the Truman pillow, the security guards, and the guy in the bathtub. Now, obviously, those are just the ones they're showing us, but they say that this show is a worldwide phenomenon. Now, do people watching this Truman Show realize that everyone is an actor except him, or do they think they're watching a real town, but that he's just the focal point, and nobody knows they're really being filmed?
I mean, they did show the actors doing pre-interviews. I don't know if
Oh, that's true. I didn't think of that.
people. I don't know if that was for us, people watching the movie, or is that for everyone else, like the audience who watched the TV show? I don't know,
But
but
that's a messed up thing, because I feel like if this really happened, you would have so many people protesting to be like, you need to let him out. Like, this
yeah,
is because they, like, Christoph, when he does his little interview with Harry Shearer,
mhm,
who, it's another thing they predicted, I'll get to that in a minute, but he basically says that Truman is the first child who's ever been adopted by a corporation. Number one, I don't understand how that's legal, but
yeah,
you would have to imagine that there'd be people to be like, no, this isn't right. You can't, as a corporation, you can't own a person. You can't force him to do this against his will, because he has no idea what's going on. He's been on film. It's almost like they insinuate that they had a camera inside his mother's womb.
oh yeah, of course. It showed his like unbirth,
Like,
his body in the womb.
that's fucking
Like
insanity.
that's insane. But in today's world, I wouldn't. It's not unbelievable, unfortunately.
I mean, I guess, but
I mean, hey, you never know. I mean, obviously, inside of a womb's kind of crazy, but but people watch live YouTube channels of pregnant animals, so it's not such a stretch.
I guess. But yeah,
But it
like,
is wild. It is wild. It is a wild thing. Absolutely.
well, at this point in the movie, like we said, this is when he starts to really kind of put effort into being like, I need to get out of here. So, and the whole thing is, his whole idea to go to Fiji is based on a girl that he met in college and maybe spent, what, an hour with her in actual conversation.
He was encapsulated.
Like, it was like they frame it as like a love at first sight kind of thing. Like, and the funny thing is he's with Meryl at the time, like in college, so they're already together. But he sees this girl, this woman, and he's like, I've gotta I've got to meet her. I got to talk to her. I got to learn more about her. And so like I said, all these hundreds or thousands of people who are on this show, and she's the only cast member who's ever felt bad and was like, I need to tell you the truth about what's going on. That also I find a little far fetched.
They did have a quick montage of people trying. Like there was a one guy who busted out as a present when he was a kid, and there was the guy coming down the parachute.
But I think they say those are people who have actually broken in to the set. This was an actual cast member.
Actual cat, exactly. Yeah, you would exactly, and it's one of the reasons why this situation would be a little bit unbelievable because out of all these extras, no one would, spill the beans.
Or
Is
no
the
one
only
even
one.
feels guilty.
You could tell people do feel guilty, especially, when he's trying to leave. Some characters are, but not enough. There's not enough people that aren't okay with doing this.
Well, I mean, that's even when he buys the bus ticket. And this is another one when he gets on the bus and there's a little girl, probably like 10 years old or something. And she sees him and she looks at her mom and she's like, isn't that him? And her mom's like, no, just look forward, ignore it. Like, you wouldn't be able to control children to not kind of like make it obvious, but
That's
I
why
mean, I wouldn't think you'd be able to.
why you didn't see that many children extras.
Yeah,
My
that's a good
thing is,
point. I hadn't really thought of that.
dude, if you pay attention to like the extras, what the fuck is going on? There's so many street cleaners. It was
Oh, I
insane.
know.
Everyone was on a bike. Why? Is it because of traffic? Because at first I thought, oh, because no one's really driving a car unless it's a bus or a taxi. But there were people driving. It just wasn't that many, I guess. I don't know why everybody was driving a bike. I don't understand that part.
Well, even if you look at the houses, like the houses, number one, they're so close together. They have such a tiny little front lawn with the whole white picket fence going. It's almost like they built the town as some like idyllic version of like the 1960s.
Definitely.
Like it
Like the
doesn't
whole
feel like that's what a town would look like in the 90s when the movie is
no,
made.
no, it looks like what a town would look like at a certain decade on a TV show because
It
everything
almost
is
looks like a Pleasantville.
kind of, but yeah, just like a a TV show set because it's too clean. There's too many people doing things like that would isn't doesn't the town doesn't look lived in at all. It looks fake. It looks artificial.
Yeah, which is wild that it took him so long to question his
It, which
reality. And then,
which is why that theory makes sense to me.
yeah, but I
That's
don't
why
know.
that theory makes sense to me, man. That's why I bring it up because it all these weird things they started to add up when he was a kid, and then you have this love of your life, this woman who you spend a couple hours with, but ab absolutely fell in love with. If she's telling you this stuff, and you could tell she's being paranoid, that's probably one of the biggest um catalysts of him
Well, and
paying attention of
he fell in
paying
love with her
attention.
enough to go like almost like a serial killer route with all these magazine clippings
Oh,
of pieces of models' faces and just to try and
I don't remember his
recreate
face. Her face.
a picture of her. And I'll be honest, when he
All
finishes
I did was
that,
draw her.
that doesn't even look like a human being, let
It
alone.
kind of looks like her. I could see it, but like, why, dude? Why don't you just draw her? could have just drew her.
I was thinking the same thing.
Just draw her, bro. And Jim Carrey is an actual artist, so that could have worked. But this is the route they wanted to go. It's okay. Very like, and it's funny too because it reminded me of his character from Batman. What was it, Batman Forever, when he kind of did the same thing, but not with uh faces. He did it with he cut out letters.
Yeah,
So it was like, yeah, he's, he's really good at doing that.
yeah. I like when he goes on his, like I say, his when he tries to do his escape with Meryl when he does the driving, and this is what really cements it for him because he's driving and he's on the radio. Oh, there's forest fires and the most fake, like
Oh yeah, that
the road ignites when there's no fire anywhere near it,
yeah,
and they just drive through it. And he's like, "Oh, we passed that. We're in the clear now." And then he hears sirens and he goes, "Oh, great! What now?" And apparently, this island also has a nuclear power plant on it that apparently has sprung a leak. And he's like, "No, oh no, all roads are closed. You can't drive." And this is what really cements it because the cop is telling them what's going on. And he's like, "Well, all right, thank you, officer. You're welcome, Truman." And he's like, "How the fuck do you know my name?" And that's
yeah.
really the catalyst, the kind of the final straw of like something's really off here.
Yeah, he was convinced that yeah, thumbs up and most everyone's in on it.
But this is where, in the meantime, we get to see that Kristoff, played by Ed Harris in a beret, which in a beret and like I don't even know how to describe the glasses that he's wearing.
Very Steve Jobs.
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah, he just looks like the most like exactly what you would think a Hollywood director would think an artist would look like. And I love that their office, their production head is in the moon.
Because of course.
Well, I mean, it works out well because obviously he can see everything from there, but also it's a way to keep their kind of headquarters hidden, so that it can't accidentally be stumbled upon.
Yeah, is a good choice, but something like that.
But again, what blew me away is you don't get to see those people in the production staff until almost an hour into the movie. And
I looked, yeah, it was an hour. Yeah, I looked, we had like 40-something minutes left. I was like, we're just getting into this? Like, we're just being introduced to these characters? I was like, all right, Ed Harris, you got an Oscar for 40 minutes of work. Oh,
I mean, Ed Harrison, what in my opinion is a very young Paul Giamatti with some very interesting facial hair.
yeah, it was weird. Weird
But
seeing it.
yeah, he I forgot he was in this, and when he popped up, I was like, "Oh, that's a choice."
Yeah, because he wasn't Paul Giamatti then, so he was taking some of these smaller roles. And yeah, I mean, even the small amount of time that he was in, he still gave a great performance, man. You know, he doesn't miss. There's not a whole lot of performances that I could.
No, I'm a big fan of Paul Giamatti, and
He usually,
like you say, even in a small role like this, I thought he killed it.
he always understands the assignment, no matter how big or small his role is, man. Yeah, there's a reason why he's still getting work today, man. He's still a huge name.
Now, I will say another thing with this movie, as we had said, the prediction of people's obsession with reality TV and whatnot. The other thing I found kind of funny is the talk show that Harry Shearer is doing when he does the interview with Ed Harris. is I think he says it's called True Talk, and it's basically just, I don't know if it's daily or weekly, like recaps of what's going on in the show. And all I could think of is when they used to do Talking Bad and Talking Dead after Breaking Bad and Walking Dead on AMC.
Yeah. After the show.
Again, it's just another thing that this movie was like, yeah, this will probably, I don't know if they were directly predicting, but yeah, obviously that came true. That was a big thing for a while there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's low-key predicted, or at least foreshadowed a lot of things that would be our future when it comes to, yeah, you know, and the another thing it predicted is the fact that we have cameras in spots that we never thought there would be, uh, like ring cameras that are like in doorbells, and
Yeah.
um, we have cameras on on our watches now, and some Ray-Bans now have cameras on their glasses. That's another thing that they kind of predicted.
Yeah, I mean, they were just as we're this week, they did the NFL Pro Bowl, and I saw videos of some of the guys, because now they do a stupid flag football game for their Pro Bowl. But I saw some of the guys wearing the Google glasses, or I don't even know what they're called anymore. But so you could watch them play from their first person perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, and
yeah, it's one of the first movies to introduce tiny cameras that are surveilling people.
it's spy cams essentially.
Exactly.
Now, during this whole thing, when you're kind of meeting the production crew, is in the midst of when Truman is having his, I think you referred to it earlier as a nervous breakdown, and he actually takes the 3-in-1 kitchen tool and threatens Meryl with it. And as he does this, once again, another thing that just breaks his mind is he grabs her and she looks straight up at the ceiling and just yells, "Do something." And of course, he kind of lets go and he's like, "Who are you talking to?" Like, and right at that moment, Marlon shows up, and I never noticed this before, but she immediately goes into Marlon's arms and she starts screaming like, "I can't work like this. This is unprofessional." And you do a hard cut to Ed Harris, who's basically doing his interview, and he's like, "Yeah, Meryl's going to leave Truman." Now, this was one of the wildest things in the movie, lines in the movie, I thought. He said, "Meryl's going to leave Truman, and we're going to introduce a new romantic interest." And he says, "I'm still confident that we will have the world's first on-air conception."
Mm.
I'm like, so...
You're going to broadcast porn?
Well, no, the funniest part is those two security guards, they're in one of the scenes where they show them, they're talking about...
Dude from Brooklyn? Is that one of the guys?
No, I don't think it's the same guy. Is that Sully?
Yeah. I'm telling that's the same guy. It's the same guy. I never forget a face, but it doesn't look like any different than what he looks like in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But yeah, it's that guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up. I think you're right now that I look at it with just the haircut.
100% is that guy.
Let's see. Yeah, it is. Wow.
Yeah, it's like this is a prequel.
Yes.
Prequel.
He left being a security guard to be a detective. But yeah, he even says to his buddy, like, "Oh, anytime they do any kind of stuff in the bedroom, they turn the camera away, or they show like wind coming through the window, and they never show anything. And yet he's saying that they're going to have the first on-air conception. Well, if it's on air, you need to be seeing it.
They have to.
Which, that is such a fucked up thing to have like that. Like, that's not even saying it's a possibility. That's like him saying that's a personal goal of this show.
Yeah, I mean, the whole conception thing, that was kind of weird. You should have said something, because, I mean, there have been moments in reality shows where people have fucked up, and, you know, they didn't show it, obviously, but they showed as much as they could get away with. But no, would be major consequences for showing that on network television, because there's rules that comes to stuff like that.
Apparently not for this show.
Right? It should, yeah, yeah. If it was this movie, again, it's so far ahead of its time. It just didn't, and it still works, even though it came out nice and nice. It still works, but it would have added so much more context and nuance if it was around now, because we do have, um, we have things like streamers and vloggers and people that are on the verge of putting their life out there, and it's a movie that could work a little bit better into in 2026, but they didn't know what the hell they were really they didn't know what they had in 1998.
But I think the difference is those people who do it on YouTube, they know what they're doing. Truman has no idea.
Yeah, he has no idea. Exactly. And the only real world comparison is there's a story of this guy. He was Japanese, and he was told that he was living by himself. Well, he was living by himself, but what he didn't know is the whole time people were watching him in Japan, but he wasn't surrounded by a town. He was like literally living inside of this, like, a room, basically.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, yeah. I think there might have been a documentary on Netflix or something about it, but it had huge ramifications on his mental health, man. When you
Oh,
really
absolutely.
when you see how far they went and how far he was in there, and how they debuted, or when he finally figured out that his whole country was watching him. Yeah, the way they show it, he finds out is even crazier.
I mean, like you say, the impact that would have on your mental health and your mental well-being, you would never, and I mean never, be able to trust anybody ever again.
The only person you'd be able to trust is Sylvia.
Yeah. You hope.
You would hope, right? I mean, I would love to have seen a sequel to this that would touch upon all these elements. I don't know if we needed it, but I would have liked to seen it.
So as we move into Act 3, Truman finally confronts the edge of his artificial world and learns the truth of his life. Given the chance to stay in comfort or step into the unknown, he chooses freedom, exiting the set and taking control of his own story for the first time. Now, as we begin his actual escape, this is part of what you were talking about from that video. So it just shows they're in the middle of the night. Christoph comes in and they're just watching. Like, he's just asleep. Like, he's been asleep for however many hours. He came to the basement after Meryl left, rooted around for a little bit. And the way Paul Giamatti says, he's like, yeah, he came down, he was doing some stuff, and then he just fell asleep. The way he says it, I'm like, it's like he's talking about a child who was just playing and then just dropped to the floor and fell asleep.
That's nice.
Like,
That's
and
not how.
no.
Hey, okay.
But what's funny is you've got however many people in this production office watching these feeds of him doing this. And they're all like, yep, he's sleeping, nothing out of the ordinary. Christoph comes in, watches about 8 seconds, and goes, there he is. He left and you guys didn't know.
Well, he looks at it and then he kind of he starts asking questions and then they kind of assure him, everything's good. Then he turns around and he starts to think. And then I don't know what thought he came to. He just realized something's up. And then
Yeah.
he goes and does a deeper look and sees that camera, that his hand there, the camera.
And they send Marlon over, and they're like, he's got to still be in the room because there's no exit. The only exit is the door up the stairs, and he didn't go that way. And this is when Marlon finds in the closet a hole that he has dug, very, very Shawshank-like. He's dug a hole up into the garden so that he has now been able to escape undetected because they're obviously not watching any of the cameras in town because he's asleep as far as they know. So he is God knows where. They get every cast member to basically walk the streets like an army looking for him. And I love that they turn
An arm.
Yeah, I love that they turn the like they've just basically discounted this as being a real world because they turn the moon into a giant spotlight and they start playing almost like what sound like prison escape sirens. And everybody is looking for Truman.
Every whole time, everyone. The twins, like,
They're pissed.
did they change their? Did they have accents or something?
They did. They changed their voices, and they've got like headsets on as if they're like they're part of the crew communicating, and or like it's almost like they're heading up the search.
Yeah, yeah. The entire town,
And I mean,
even the dog, even the Dalmatian was involved.
oh, that thing was that in that scene, that Dalmatian looked damn near rabid, like just growling and baring his teeth and just like I'm gonna rip.
Right?
Like if that thing could have talked, he would have been like, if I catch this son of a bitch, I'm gonna rip him a new asshole.
Right? It's like why are you so angry though? And even the owner's like, yeah,
Yeah, get him.
Hey, man, damn, you're just looking for him. He's missing. I thought, all right, man, that guy has his own agenda.
I like the fact that the way Gustav kind of figures out where he is because they're like, oh, we've looked everywhere with this, and all of a sudden he has like this epiphany, and he says,
Yeah,
we're not watching the sea. And everybody on the team is like, well, why the fuck would we? He's terrified of water. Like, and it's like, that's exactly why he would go there.
yeah. And it makes sense if you look every fucking where. You looked everywhere. There's only so many places he could have gone.
And this is when we have Philip Baker Hall come in, who's like the head of the network, and he's questioning like what are you doing? And like when they can't find him, he actually cuts the transmission of the show, which has never happened, and people lose their minds.
Yeah, because this friend, he's gone. He's missing.
But yeah, when they do find where he is, they use the weather control. Well, number one, they also turn it to daytime, and it's like 2, 3 in the morning. So obviously, like I said, they're just taking this whole idea and throwing it out. I don't know what his plans were to be like, oh yeah, all of a sudden the moon turned into a spotlight and it became daytime at like 3 a.m. But
Yeah, we didn't get Truman's reaction to that either. I would have loved to have seen how he reacted to that.
I mean, I would have loved to even hear a line from Ed Harris as to be like, oh, we'll just explain it away by doing blank.
Yeah, but you know that he was just doing stuff off the cuff, and he didn't care because he would have found a way to explain it, later. He just wasn't.
Yeah, he was panicking.
Trying to explain it. Yeah.
Now, they use the weather controls, and they basically put Truman in the middle of a hurricane, and to the point where Paul Giamatti, Philip Baker Hall, like everybody there is like, you've got to stop. Like, I get that you're trying to scare him, and then all of a sudden, Christoph takes a turn as to he almost becomes evil, and he says, because I think Paul Giamatti says something like, "You're going to kill him," and he says, "He was born on TV. Born in front of a live audience, and he can die in front of a live audience." And it's like, okay, now we're going even darker than I thought this show could go.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, even probably through like the whole time you see Ed Harris, he doesn't even consider Truman like a human being. He just looks at him like
He's a commodity.
yeah, an object, like the star of the show, like not really a person.
He's the quote unquote talent.
And when you don't see somebody as a human or the humanity in somebody, you would be opted to do something like that in times of desperation.
Yeah. And they do. They damn near kill him. Like, they capsize his boat. And then once that happens, they kind of say, okay, we're going to turn the weather off. The boat rights itself. And he is, like, hanging off of it. Like, he looks half dead. And
hit with those perfect storm waves. They're like perfect storm waves, man.
Yeah.
That shit, yeah, that's terrifying. Seeing the wave coming at you.
Yeah, that didn't look like fun.
Hell no. He took it. I mean, and he did. Hey, he did call out. I guess whoever was doing that because he didn't know what was happening. But Truman was, he was laughing at the little storm, the lightning.
He says you're gonna have. He says you're gonna have to kill me.
Yeah. So Ed Harris obliges. Tries to, really.
But this is where he gets his. This is kind of like his hero moment. Like, they finally turn the weather off, the sun comes out, the boat continues to go along, and then all of a sudden, the front of the boat goes right through the wall. And he realizes he's reached the end of whatever this place is that he's in. And I've always found it so amusing, unless they have one of these like every 20 or 30 feet, but the boat hits right next to a set of stairs and an exit door.
Yeah, it's pretty convenient, but I'm just going to go with the fact that they probably have that stuff.
Yeah, I'm assuming they have them at regular intervals, so it wasn't that out of the realm of possibility, but...
Yeah, it was hella convenient.
And this... I like when Ed Harris starts talking to him as if, like... It's almost framed like the voice of God, and I like that he's looking... Again, he's looking at a tablet, another thing that they kind of predicted, but it's... As he's looking at Truman, he's almost like stroking and petting his hair on the screen as if, like you say, he does just view him as an object. And I think that's the only moment that there's any real empathy shown, and it's just the way that he does that, like, touching of the screen as if he's trying to be close somewhat to Truman. But he says to him, like, you don't want to go out there. Out there is unknown. It's, you know, like, it's scary. It's, and almost like you're never gonna last type thing.
Yeah, and it's like his whole life. Even as a kid, he said he wanted to be an explorer. Like he's has this fascination of traveling or exploring and just getting out of that island.
Yeah.
And yeah, that whole time he's being completely manipulated to stay. And yeah, man, it's kind of messed up just when you really understand what they're doing and the ramifications that will come after.
I think I think the way that they have Jim Carrey do his exit, I think was the absolute perfect way to close out his character when you just have him staring at this, and you can't see anything. It's just a black opening in the door. There's
Yeah,
there's no information as to what's on the other side. And Ed Harris says to him, like, this, he's like, I want you to stay, but it's almost like he's saying, like, it's your choice, but I'm telling you that if you go through that door, you're going to regret it. And it's almost like an animal that's lived its entire life in captivity being released into the wild, and they have no idea how to fend for themselves.
exactly. And also I'll add that like, the whole time he's talking to him, he's telling Truman, I know you better than you know yourself. I know what you're thinking. I know what you want. And Jim Carrey said a line that is would was pretty prolific. He said, "You never had a camera in my head,"
I've never noticed that line, and I almost got chills when he said it.
which puts everything in perspective.
Absolutely.
Like, and it's like, and the last thing he says before he goes through the door, the good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and he smiles. It's almost like he was performing, and that was his final bow as a performer,
Yeah,
and he was done. And I
it's
think that
perfect.
was
It's
touching, and there's
perfect.
layers to it, if you want to dig deep into that, there there's definitely some layers there. And yeah, it was yeah, it was a
It,
perfect ending.
I don't think I viewed it the same way when I watched it, but the way you just said it, you're absolutely right. Because he does. He just looks from the door, turns around, looks up at the sky, and it's like he's got that look again, and he puts the smile on. He says, "In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night," and does that little and exits, and he's gone. And I think it's the perfect end to his character. As much as you might want to know what happens after that, I don't think we need to know. I
Because
think it's
yeah,
I think it's better
know,
just for him. He got
yeah.
out. That was his reward. That was his hero's journey coming to a close.
And they kind of show things that will definitely come to light, like the fact that Sylvia is headed to wherever she's headed to Truman,
Yeah,
obviously. So we all know where it's headed. So we don't really need to know, even though we know, but we don't know specifics.
and it shows all of the people watching just crying and cheering, and they're so happy for him, and then I think it's another thing that just describes not only us as human beings in 1998, but especially nowadays with the lack of attention span that so many people have. It goes back to the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the two, they're security guards or parking lot attendants or something like that. And they kind of look at each other and they go, huh, what else is on? Like,
Yeah,
it's over, and they're immediately like, well, what else can we watch? Like, that's done, so now what? And that's just how the movie ends. And I think it's a great send off and sign off of the movie, is to put it in perspective of one day you're the biggest star in the world, and then the minute you're off screen, the general public is looking at what's the next thing to watch, what's the next thing to kind of obsess over.
yeah. You could be completely emotionally invested into something. Um, in that form of entertainment. But as soon as that's done, we are craving for the next thing, that next form of entertainment that's gonna distract us. You know what I mean? From
And let's be honest, we've all been there. Where
uh,
the minute we finish something, it's like, now what?
yeah, you put on something else, and then you get immersed in that and obsessive. And
Yeah, I just think it was such a great ending. Now, before we move on to our final thoughts, there is one thing I wanted to say. So we discussed Jim Carrey didn't get um, the big Academy Award nomination. However, he did get a little bit um, of a consolation. So Siskel and Ebert, obviously renowned critics, loved this movie. And on their show, when they did the review of this movie, they actually issued an on-air apology to Jim Carrey. Because after they watched Ace Ventura, they basically had said that because of the way he is, he would never have a movie career. And they issued an on-air apology after watching this movie, basically saying, we were way off base. Like,
I could see that if I was a critic and I never known that style of comedy or even a comedic actor, and that shit came on, I'd probably say some of the things too. It's just they didn't know. And he was, if you watch his performance in Ace Ventura, he was something different. He was something different we ain't never seen before. And everything would lead you to believe, yeah, this is somebody that's gonna
yeah,
stay in that realm. You didn't know he was gonna branch out and be an incredible dramatic actor.
yeah. I love that little tidbit of information.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Good.
But as I said, we've kind of gotten to the end of the Truman Show. And I'm ready to move on to final thoughts. How about yourself?
Yeah, yeah, I'm there.
All right, well, this was your suggestion, so why don't you kick it off?
Yeah. Um, this movie with my rewatch, I like it even more than I did before, even though I thought it was really good when I watched it, in my younger days. Watching it as a critic and, a bit older, um, I appreciate it a lot more. And you understand more of the nuance of how the movie works, you know, when you're older, and even more when you're watching it for the second time or third time or whatever. Um, yeah, it's one of those rare films that is far ahead of its time, and it is more relevant with each passing year. Um, I think the tone was great. It moves from, a drama, almost like a light drama, to a harrowing psychological thriller. to a dark comedy in almost a single heartbeat, right? It's crazy. Um, what the strengths of Jim Carrey's performance. The rest of the acting, the actors were pretty good. The chemistry between him and the best friend character was pretty standout, and the moments between them when they were supposed to hit, it really did hit. You really felt that the emotional whenever they were together. Um, Weaknesses, I'd say just the practicality and the realistic nature of this happening for 30 plus years is kind of unrealistic, but you get some things you just gotta go into it, and that would be my only real weakness of this movie. But other than that, I think it's almost an essential movie watch for somebody who's is into movies, into film. I think it's a really well put movie, and I believe it should be watched by anybody who is a fan of Jim Carrey or just wants this movie slips through your fingers, and you're looking for a really satisfying, entertaining, heartfelt movie. Um, I highly recommend this movie, and I give this 8.5 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This movie is, I mean, in my opinion, this movie is absolutely phenomenal. I loved it when I was younger, when I first saw it, in my teenage years. And even now, like, I love it even more now because there's so many things that I was able to appreciate and notice now watching it, especially with a little bit more of a critical eye. I think the acting is fantastic across the board. I don't think there's really a very weak acting job from anybody. The chemistry works in terms of what it needs to be. The direction is fantastic. Peter Weir absolutely deserved to be nominated for an Academy Award for this movie. And again, I think that as much as we discussed in the Dumb and Dumber episode 94 was Jim Carrey's introduction year to the mainstream media, I think this was his coming out movie and showing what he can do in front of a camera aside from silly gags and ridiculous jokes. He is absolutely spot on through this entire film. And there are so many nuances and intricacies throughout the movie that, again, you just pick up on and you notice different little things every time you watch it. Again, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm going to highly, highly recommend this to anybody, whether you've seen it or not. If you've never seen it, I recommend you watch it as soon as you can. And if you watch it again, I promise you will notice things that you have never seen before or never noticed before. And in terms of a rating, I'm going to give this a 9. I love this movie. So that's going to bring us to the end of The Truman Show. Next week, we will be continuing our Jim Carrey miniseries. And with it being my turn to pick, I've been kind of bouncing around some different ideas. It's funny because I had said last week when I had us do Dumb and Dumber, the movie that I was kind of thinking that I was going to have us do was going to be The Truman Show. So I had to kind of rethink that. And I didn't want to go back to '94 to his original trilogy that year. So I went a few years down the road, and we're going to go a little bit more family oriented Jim Carrey comedy. And we are going to see him as basically a deadbeat father who, for just one day, cannot tell a lie. We are going to watch Liar Liar. Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've seen this movie. This movie came out just a year before Truman Show, and for a long time, it was probably my quintessential Jim Carrey movie, because a lot of his other ones, once my parents saw what they were like, they didn't want me watching those. So the nice thing about Liar Liar is it was a little more family oriented. So they were like, yeah, I guess you can watch that. And believe me, I probably would have wore out a VHS tape of this.
Yeah, we owned one. Like, for some reason, we watched the hell out of that movie for his performance alone. I know I haven't rewatched it in years since, a kid. I'd say I don't think that's a movie I watched in well over 10 years.
Yeah, probably same here.
Oh wow!
So,
Look forward to it.
I'm also looking forward to rewatching it. Like I say, it's been quite a while. So join us next week as we discuss Jim Carrey's Liar Liar. And as always, I would like to thank everybody for following and subscribing to us. And we would like to ask all of you to give us a rating and a review, 5 stars, if you wouldn't mind. It would help us grow and give us some new audience members to get in touch with. And as always, give us a follow on our socials, which will be posted in the show notes. And until next week, in case we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Take care, everybody.
Peace.